Hey, good morning, everybody. Pastor Brad from New Covenant United Church of Christ in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. And this is this week's edition of Children's Story Time. This week's edition of Children's Story Time is for the 15th Sunday after Pentecost. We're taking a look at the gospel lesson from Mark chapter 7, essentially verses 1 to 23, but we'll read selected verses within that parameters. And it's for Sunday, September 1st, 2024. And with me is my good friend George. You remember George, my good friend George. He's very curious. He's with me today and going to be helping me this morning. And so what I have is I have a number of different cleaning products. And you tell me where George would use those different cleaning products. Let's start with some soap. Where would George, what part of George's body would he clean with this kind of soap? Any guesses? What do you think? How about his hands? Do you think George would clean his hands with this soap? Wash his hands after using the restroom? Yeah, that's hands. George would clean his hands with that kind of soap. How about body wash? What would George clean with a jar of body wash? His body, of course. Yeah. How about this one? What would George clean with this one? Oh yeah, George would clean his teeth with the toothpaste. Here we go. How about a bar of soap? What would George use a bar of soap for? Yeah, just like the body wash. He'd use that all over his body. Let's put it on George's feet. How about it? How about we put that on George's feet? How about this one? How about this one? The sanitizer. What would George use the sanitizer for? Yeah, just like the hand soap, he'd use that to clean his hands. Maybe there isn't any water available, or maybe you sit down at a restaurant and after touching the menu, you want to sanitize your hands, clean your hands before the meal. Yeah, George would use the hand sanitizer to clean his hands. How about this one? How about a bottle of shampoo? What would George clean with the shampoo? His hair. Yeah, now George has a lot of hair. George is pretty hairy. But for those of us who aren't as hairy as George, we would put that we would use that to clean our hair. But this one, how about deodorant? What would George use deodorant for? Where would he clean his body with deodorant? Under his arms. Absolutely. Under George's arms. Here's our last one. Well, no, actually got one more after this. Second to last. What would George use this for? What would George use this for? Yeah, to clean his face. Shaving cream. George would use that to clean his face. I got one more. What would George use this for? What would George have to clean for this? His hiney. Absolutely. Yeah, that one would clean George's hiney. Just like we clean our teeth, just like George cleans his hands and his hair and his body and his hiney, just like George cleans his body every day, sometimes more than once a day. I bet George, how many times a day do you wash your hands? Lots of times. Yeah. More than once a day. Sometimes we clean parts of our body more than once a day. In our lesson, Jesus reminds us that it's not only important to keep our bodies clean, but also he reminds us in our lesson it's important to keep our hearts clean. Clean hearts. Clean hearts, Jesus wants us to have. He wants us to clean our hearts, to get rid, to wash away all of our anger, to wash away all of our hatred, to get rid of all of those bad things that we're holding inside of us. Jesus wants us to clean our hearts, just like we clean our hands, just like we clean our teeth, just like we clean our hair. Jesus wants us to clean our hearts as well. He wants us to say, I'm sorry. He wants us to say, I forgive you. He wants us to be peacemakers. He wants us to resolve the arguments that we have with others. Jesus not only wants us to have clean hands and clean teeth and clean bodies, but he wants us to have clean hearts also. May it be so. Thanks be to God. Amen. Thanks for playing my game with me. Thank you for helping George figure out where all the cleaners belong on his body so that he doesn't use shaving cream on his teeth. Thank you for helping George this morning. Hope you can join me each and every week. Hope you can like, follow, subscribe not only to this YouTube channel but also to our Facebook page, and that you'll stay in touch. And hopefully someday we'll see you in person at New Covenant UCC. Peace, blessings, love, and prayers, everybody. Bye-bye.